Hello, my beloved friends. Your mind is not your enemy. It becomes your enemy only when you live on the surface of it. But deep inside, beneath the noise, beneath the clutter, beneath the old wounds that you have carried for so long, there is an intelligence that can transform your entire life. Once you taste it, even for a single moment, you will wonder how you ever lived without it. You will look back at your past and realize you were walking in sleep. In this talk, I will show you how your mind truly works. Not the mind you were taught to fear, not the mind you were taught to suppress or fight against, but the mind that is alive, creative, vast, and capable of shaping your entire existence. You will discover how your thoughts create your inner climate. You will see how your attention directs your energy and how your awareness becomes your ultimate power. If you are ready to take this step, if you are ready to claim the power that has been waiting for you, express your readiness now by clicking the like button. This is not just a click, it is an energetic signal to the universe that you are open, that you are listening, that you are ready to receive. You will learn how to dissolve the noise that keeps your potential asleep. You will learn how to awaken the parts of yourself that have been waiting in silence, waiting to be seen, waiting to be used. By the end of our time together, you will understand your mind not as a burden to be carried, but as a doorway into your highest possibilities. All your life, people have told you what to think. Parents, teachers, society, they have all been busy filling your head, but no one taught you how to think. They filled your mind with information, mountains of facts and figures, but they never showed you how to find wisdom. They told you to control your thoughts, to silence them, to fight them as if they were monsters. But no one showed you the deeper truth. And the truth is this: the mind opens when you stop fighting it. The mind expands when you stop fearing it. The mind reveals its power when you approach it with curiosity, not judgment. You have been living with a mind that works, yes, but it does not work for you. It works against you because you were never taught how to understand it. And this misunderstanding has shaped your entire life. But I will show you a new way, a simple way, a way that awakens the deepest intelligence inside you. We will walk together into the hidden depths of the mind. I will take you beyond the surface thoughts, beyond the old beliefs, beyond the noise that keeps you trapped in smallness. You will learn how to quiet the mind without force, how to guide it without fear, how to use it without being used by it. We will explore the silent layers where inspiration begins, where clarity is born, where creativity flows effortlessly. And somewhere in this journey, perhaps, when you least expect it, something inside you will shift, a door will open, a light will appear, you will feel your mind soften, expand, awaken, and in that moment you will understand what has always been true, that your mind is not a cage but a universe, and you have only just begun to enter it. As we enter this first doorway together, I want you to understand something that most people never see, something so simple and yet so hidden beneath the rush of daily thoughts that it remains invisible for an entire lifetime. What I am about to share might seem quiet, almost too quiet to notice. But if you feel it even for a moment, your whole understanding of the mind will begin to shift. Here it is. You have been living only on the surface of your mind. Just as a person might float on the surface of the ocean, never imagining the vast depth below. And because you remain on the surface, tossed by waves of emotion, storms of thought, winds of fear, you believe this churning surface is all you are. You identify with the wave and forget the water. But beneath it, beneath the noise, beneath the habits, beneath the constant movement, there is a depth that is silent, spacious, creative, and infinitely powerful. The mistake is not that the mind is weak. The mistake is that you have mistaken the surface for the whole. Here is something most people completely miss. The surface mind is reactive. It moves fast but without depth. It reacts to memories, triggers, old patterns, fears, inherited from childhood, ideas borrowed from others. It is a machine of reaction. It is loud, and its loudness creates the illusion of importance. You think because it shouts, it must be true. But the deeper mind, the true mind, is quiet. And that quietness makes people overlook it. The surface shouts, the depth whispers. And because the world has trained you to listen to the loudest voice, you miss the one that actually holds clarity, creativity, intelligence, direction. The surface mind is a servant pretending to be the master. The deeper mind is the true master pretending to be absent. If you are beginning to hear this whisper, if you feel a resonance in your heart, I invite you to subscribe to this channel. By subscribing, you are not just following a channel, you are joining a community of seekers who are tired of the noise and are ready for the silence. Join us and let us walk this path together. Imagine standing on the shore of the ocean during a storm. Waves crash violently. The wind howls. The water is chaotic, unpredictable. If you looked only at the surface, you would think the entire ocean was in turmoil. You would be terrified. But dive just a few feet below and you enter another world, a world where everything is still, calm, undisturbed. The surface drama cannot touch the depth. In the same way, your thoughts may be agitated. Your emotions may rise and fall like waves, but beneath them there is a stillness that has never been disturbed, not even for a moment. A stillness that is your true nature, a stillness that holds your hidden potential. Let me take this deeper because this realization is the foundation of unlocking your mind's power. When you live only in the surface mind, life feels heavy. Small problems feel enormous. Minor challenges feel overwhelming. The smallest comment from someone becomes a storm inside you. Why? Because the surface mind exaggerates, dramatizes, distorts. It must do so. It survives on tension. Without problems, the surface mind feels empty, so it creates them. But the deeper mind sees clearly. It sees without distortion. It responds without fear. It creates effortlessly. It thinks without overthinking. When you touch this depth, even for a moment, a great intelligence awakens inside you. An intelligence that has nothing to do with education or memory, but everything to do with presence. And now let us explore the why. Why do you remain trapped on the surface? Why is it so difficult to dive? Because you have been trained to use the mind through force. You are told to think harder, to analyze more, to push, to strive, to struggle. You believe that effort is the key to everything. But the deeper mind does not open through force. It is very shy. It opens through relaxation, through awareness, through allowing. You cannot dive into the ocean by splashing harder on the surface. Splashing only keeps you on top. You dive by becoming still, by letting gravity pull you downward. In the same way, you access the deeper mind by becoming silent, becoming aware, becoming present. not by fighting thoughts, but by watching them, not by chasing intelligence, but by allowing it. A man once came to me exhausted from thinking. He was holding his head in his hands. He said, "Oh, I cannot stop my mind. I need clarity." I told him, "Clarity is already there, but you are standing on the surface shouting at the waves. Come down into the depth, and you will find clarity waiting for you like a patient friend." He closed his eyes, sat in silence, and for the first time felt a gap between his thoughts. He felt a spaciousness, and in that spaciousness clarity appeared not as a thought but as presence. He opened his eyes and said, "The ocean is deeper than I knew." I told him, "The ocean has been deep all your life. You simply lived in the shallow end." Now let us touch the what. What is the deeper mind? It is the mind that functions in silence, intuition, creativity, insight. It is the mind that knows without thinking, acts without hesitation, creates without effort. It is the mind that artists touch when inspiration flows, the mind that mystics touch when truth reveals itself, the mind that children touch before conditioning covers their natural intelligence. It is always here, always ready, always open, but you can access it only when you stop clinging to the surface. And finally, the how. How do you access the deeper mind? By creating space, by slowing down, by becoming the watcher instead of the thinker, by letting thoughts move without grabbing them, by allowing silence to appear even in small moments. The deeper mind is not far away. It is just beneath the noise. When the noise settles, the depth reveals itself. And now that you understand the difference between the surface mind and the deep mind, we can move deeper into the journey into the next truth waiting to be uncovered. That your deeper intelligence is not missing, it is sleeping, and awareness is what will awaken it. To support this channel and ensure we can continue to bring these teachings to you, consider clicking the join button or using the super thanks feature. Your contribution helps us spread this light to more souls who are living in darkness. Also, for those who wish to read and contemplate these words in silence, our ebooks are available in the description below. Now that you have begun to sense the vast difference between the surface mind and the deep mind, it is time to go even further inward into the hidden chamber where your true intelligence rests. Not the intelligence taught in schools, not the intelligence rewarded in society, but the natural, effortless intelligence that has been sleeping inside you since the beginning of your life. And what I am about to tell you may shake your understanding of yourself, because it is so simple and yet so forgotten. Your mind already knows more than you think it knows. Beneath the noise, beneath the conditioning, beneath the constant rehearsing of old thoughts, there exists a luminous intelligence that has been waiting patiently for your attention. It has not disappeared. It has not weakened. It has only been covered, buried under layers of fear, habit, and noise. And when awareness touches it, when even a small beam of presence shines upon it, it wakes up like a seed responding to the first warmth of spring. Let me take you into this gently. Creativity is not something you produce. Creativity is something that happens when the deeper mind is allowed to breathe. Insight is not something you force. Insight arises when you stop forcing solutions and allow space for clarity to emerge. The deeper mind functions in silence, not in struggle. It reveals its treasures when you relax your grip, when you stop pushing, when you stop trying to control everything with effort. Effort belongs to the surface. Ease belongs to the depth. And when you enter ease, the deeper intelligence opens like a flower unfolding its petals, slow, natural, inevitable. Here is something most people never understand. The deeper intelligence cannot be accessed through tension. The moment you become tense, the surface mind takes over. It tightens, it shrinks, it repeats old patterns. Tension is the language of fear, but relaxation is the language of intelligence. When you relax, not laziness, but a deep inner ease, your mind becomes spacious, and in that spaciousness, inspiration begins to flow. Ideas rise without being pushed. Solutions appear without being forced. You begin to know things you never logically learned, because intelligence comes not from accumulation but from awareness. Think of a lamp covered by years of dust. The light is there. It has always been there, but it cannot shine through. When you wipe the dust, the brightness does not come from your effort. It comes from removing what blocked it. In the same way, your deeper intelligence does not need to be created, it only needs to be uncovered. The dust is noise, fear, tension, overthinking. The polishing cloth is awareness. When awareness touches the mind becomes clear. When clarity appears, intelligence awakens. A woman once came to me crying, saying she felt unintelligent, incapable, small. She said, "Oh, I don't have gifts like others." I asked her to sit silently, to breathe, to feel her body, to stop fighting her thoughts. After a few minutes, her face softened. The tightness in her eyes evaporated. Her breath became slow and natural. And suddenly she said, "I feel something opening, something gentle, something alive." I told her, "That is your true intelligence. It was never gone. It was simply waiting for you to stop pushing." This is the nature of deeper intelligence. It appears when you stop standing in your own way. Let us now explore the why. Why does the deeper intelligence sleep? It sleeps because noise dominates your inner world. It sleeps because you were taught to value speed over depth, logic over awareness, accumulation over understanding. Your education trained you to think, not to know, to memorize, not to see, to repeat, not to discover. And so, the natural intelligence that was alive in you as a child, a mind full of wonder, curiosity, openness, slowly retreated into silence as conditioning filled its space. But it never died. It simply waited. And now the what is this deeper intelligence? It is intuition. It is insight. It is creativity. It is clarity. It is the subtle knowing that arises before thought, the knowing that does not come from books or teachers, but from the core of your being. It is the spark behind great inventions, great art, great wisdom. It is the intelligence that guided mystics, scientists, poets, not through logic but through presence. It is the intelligence that solves problems without effort, that sees connections without analysis, that understands life from the inside, not the outside. Finally, the how. How do you awaken this intelligence? Not by striving, but by seeing, not by thinking more, but by thinking less, not by forcing the mind to be silent, but by resting in awareness until silence arises on its own. Spend time each day in a few moments of stillness. Feel your breath. Watch your thoughts instead of wrestling with them. Allow inner space to grow, and slowly, gently, like the dawn spreading across the horizon, your deeper intelligence will begin to shine. Now that you have tasted both the depth of the mind and the awakening of its sleeping intelligence, the next step becomes obvious. If the mind is so full of power, what has been preventing you from living from this place your whole life? What forces inside you have been blocking this brilliance? It is time now to uncover the obstacles, the hidden walls that keep your potential small. Now that you have begun to sense the depth of your mind and the quiet intelligence waiting beneath its surface, we must turn to the invisible forces that prevent you from living in that depth. Because if your mind is so vast, so capable, so luminous, why do you live in such a small corner of it? Why do you remain trapped in patterns that do not serve you? Why do the same fears, the same doubts, the same limitations appear again and again as if you are walking in circles inside yourself? The answer is simple yet powerful: conditioning. Conditioning is the cage built around your natural intelligence. It is the prison made not of walls but of beliefs. It is the story installed in you long before you had the awareness to question it, and until you see it, you cannot be free of it. Let us move carefully because this understanding is delicate. Conditioning is not something you chose. It is something done to you. As a child, you absorbed everything around you without filter, without judgment, without protection. Your mind was soft clay. Every word spoken by the people around you left an imprint. Every fear they carried was handed to you. Every belief they lived by became the boundaries of your own mind. In those early years before awareness awakened, you learned who you were supposed to be, what you were allowed to feel, what you were allowed to want, what you should fear, what you should hide, what you should obey. This early programming became the skeleton of your identity. Here is something most people never see. Conditioning is not only about what you were told, it is about what you were never given space to discover. If no one encouraged your curiosity, it shrank. If no one validated your intuition, it dimmed. If no one honored your silence, it became uncomfortable. If no one allowed your creativity, it retreated. Conditioning is not always loud. Sometimes it is the absence of permission, and this absence shapes you more deeply than commands ever could. Imagine an elephant tied with a thin rope. As a baby, it was tied with a strong chain. It tried to break free, but its small body could not overcome the chain. After many attempts, it gave up. It learned the belief, I am not strong enough. Years later, when the elephant is fully grown and could break the rope effortlessly, it does not try. It remains standing, bound not by the rope, but by the memory of its own limitation. This is the trap of conditioning. You are held not by reality but by old conclusions drawn when you were too young to know better. Let me take you deeper. Conditioning does not live in your intellect. It lives in your body. It lives in the shape of your breath, the tension in your shoulders, the stiffness in your chest, the avoidance in your gaze. You can feel your conditioning if you pay attention. When you want to speak your truth but your throat tightens, that is conditioning. When you feel excitement about something new but the mind whispers, be careful, that is conditioning. When you long for freedom but unconsciously choose safety, again conditioning. It has become second nature, woven into your nervous system, shaping your reactions before you even know a reaction has begun. This is the why. Why your deeper intelligence remains asleep. It is buried under the weight of old beliefs, beliefs that were given to you without your permission. Now let us touch the what. What exactly is conditioning made of? It is made of inherited fear, social pressure, cultural expectations, family wounds, unexamined rules, silent agreements, and the endless messages of a world that wants you predictable, obedient, manageable. Conditioning is the collective voice of everyone who came before you, telling you who you should be instead of allowing you to discover who you are. And finally, the how. How do you break free? Not through rebellion, not through force, not by attacking your conditioning. Conditioning dissolves the moment you see it clearly. Awareness is the solvent. When you become aware of a belief, it loses its unconscious power. When you notice a fear and watch it without shrinking, it softens. When you catch yourself acting from old programming, you create a small space, a pause, and in that pause, freedom enters. You may still choose the old pattern, but now you choose consciously, and a chosen pattern cannot imprison you. Only an unconscious one can. A man once told me, "Oh, sure, I feel like I am trapped by something inside me that I cannot see." I told him, "Good, if you feel the trap, awareness has already begun." The feeling of being trapped is not a failure. It is the beginning of awakening. It means the unconscious is becoming conscious. It means the rope is being seen. And once you see the rope, its power dissolves. This brings us naturally to the next doorway, the next force that limits your mind's vast potential. The constant noise within you, noise that drains your energy, scatters your attention, and blocks your access to deeper intelligence. To unlock your mind fully, we must now step into understanding this noise and how silence becomes the master key. Now that you have seen how conditioning shapes the walls of your inner prison, we must step into another force that keeps you trapped on the surface of your mind, a force so constant, so loud, so familiar that most people do not even recognize it as a problem. In fact, many believe it is simply normal life. But this force is the greatest thief of your intelligence, the greatest drain on your energy, the greatest barrier between you and your deeper potential. I am speaking of inner noise, the endless chatter of thoughts, the recycling of old memories, the rehearsing of imaginary futures, the mental clutter that fills every corner of your inner space. And what I am about to share with you might seem counterintuitive at first, but if you allow it to settle, if you truly listen, it will reveal the doorway to a level of clarity and power you have never experienced before. A noisy mind cannot be a powerful mind. Let us move slowly. Noise consumes attention, and attention is your most precious currency. Whatever you give your attention to grows stronger. When your attention is scattered across hundreds of small, meaningless thoughts, your energy becomes fragmented. You feel tired not because your life is exhausting, but because your attention leaks constantly into mental chatter. You feel confused, not because you lack intelligence, but because noise blocks your inner clarity. You feel disconnected from your deeper mind, not because it is absent, but because it cannot be heard beneath the constant static of your inner world. Here is something most people completely miss. The brain is not exhausted by thinking, it is exhausted by unfinished repetitive circular thinking, thoughts that go nowhere, thoughts that repeat the same fear, thoughts that replay the same memory, thoughts that argue with themselves. The surface mind becomes like a crowded marketplace where everyone is shouting and no one is listening. In this marketplace, deeper insight cannot speak. Creativity becomes impossible. Intelligence becomes distorted. The mind becomes a closed loop of noise feeding on itself. Imagine trying to hear a whisper in a crowded room. Someone next to you tries to speak softly, but the surrounding noise drowns their voice completely. The whisper might contain something important, guidance, truth, inspiration, but it cannot reach you. Your deeper intelligence functions like that whisper. It is subtle, quiet, gentle. It does not push or demand. It waits. And as long as the noise continues, you miss the one voice that could change everything. Let me take you deeper. Noise is not only mental, it is emotional. Every unresolved emotion creates sound within you. Unexpressed sadness murmurs beneath your breath. Old anger vibrates in your muscles. Unprocessed fear hums like an engine you forgot to turn off. This emotional noise mixes with mental noise, creating a chaotic inner climate where nothing can settle long enough for clarity to arise. You feel restless without knowing why. You feel overwhelmed without any obvious cause. You feel scattered even when doing nothing. This is the weight of inner noise, not the weight of life. A man once told me, "Oh, I feel constantly tired even though I do nothing difficult." I asked him, "How many thoughts did you think today?" He laughed, not understanding. So I told him, "The mind burns more energy than the body. A single hour of unconscious thinking can drain you more than a full day of physical work. You are tired not because you are doing too much, but because your thoughts are doing too much." He sat silently and for the first time understood that his exhaustion was not from life but from within. Now let us explore the why. Why is noise so persistent? Because noise distracts you from yourself. Noise prevents you from encountering the silence where your true intelligence lives. Noise is the ego's protection mechanism. As long as you remain entangled in mental chaos, you cannot access the deeper mind that would make the ego irrelevant. So the ego creates more noise whenever you come close to silence. The moment you sit quietly, your mind becomes louder. The moment you try to breathe calmly, thoughts accelerate. The noise intensifies not because something is wrong, but because you are approaching freedom. Before we dissolve this noise together, if you are finding value in this silence we are sharing, please consider sharing this video with a friend who is also tired of the noise. Help us build a sanctuary of awareness in this chaotic digital world. Now the what? What exactly is inner noise made of? It is made of old conditioning replaying itself. It is made of fear projecting into the future. It is made of unresolved emotions seeking attention. It is made of social programming, repeating phrases that were never yours. It is made of habits of thinking, patterns so deeply ingrained that they run without your awareness. Noise is not an enemy, it is a signal that your mind is working without awareness. Finally, the how. How do you dissolve the noise? Not by fighting it, not by suppressing it, not by forcing silence. Noise dissolves when you become aware of it. The moment you begin watching your thoughts, the moment you observe the chatter instead of becoming the chatter, the volume decreases. Awareness creates space. Space allows silence to enter. And silence is not the absence of thought, it is the presence of the deeper mind. Silence is where clarity lives. Silence is where intelligence awakens. Silence is the source of your potential. And now that you understand both conditioning and noise, the two great forces that keep your mind small, we can turn to the most liberating stage of this journey. How to access the mind's full power by becoming the witness, by entering silence, by stepping into presence, and by allowing the deeper mind to reveal itself naturally, effortlessly, without force. Now that you have seen how conditioning restricts your mind and how inner noise drains your energy, we can finally step into the most transformative shift a human being can experience. The moment you stop being the mind and start watching the mind, and what I am about to tell you may be the simplest doorway into awakening, yet it is the one people overlook again and again because it does not appeal to the ego. It does not promise control, it does not promise domination. It offers something far more radical: freedom, real freedom, the kind of freedom that arises when you realize you are the sky, not the clouds. You are the ocean, not the waves. You are the witness, not the thoughts. And this next part changed everything for me, as it will for you. The moment you begin to watch the mind loses its power over you. Let us go very slowly, because this understanding is not intellectual. It is experiential. It must be tasted. When a thought appears in your mind, you immediately claim it. You say, "This is my thought." When an emotion arises, you say, "I am angry, I am afraid, I am sad." Without awareness, you merge with whatever thought or feeling arises, as if the wave is the ocean itself. You become the anger, you become the sadness, you become the fear. But the witness sees differently. The witness does not say, "I am angry." The witness says, "Anger is arising." Do you feel the difference? It is subtle, but it is absolute. The witness does not say, "I am thinking this thought." The witness says, "A thought is passing through." This separation is the key. Once it appears, the whole architecture of suffering begins to collapse. Most people never question their thoughts. They assume the mind is telling them the truth. They assume every thought is important, meaningful, personal. But watch your mind carefully and you will see a different reality. Thoughts come and go on their own. You do not invite them. You do not consciously create them. They simply appear like birds flying across the sky. You cannot control which birds fly overhead, but you can choose not to build a nest for them in your hair. Witnessing is this choosing. It is the act of letting the bird fly without following it. Everything that you call life is a projection of your own mind. The people you love, the pain you feel, the success you chase, all are reflections of your inner film. You are not living in the world. You are living in your own dream about the world, and this dream is made of thoughts. Change the dream and the world changes instantly. In this journey, I will take you beyond the dream, beyond the thought that creates the dream. You will learn how to become aware of your inner cinema, how to stop being the actor and awaken as the watcher. Then you will see that the same energy that creates your suffering can also create your bliss. If you are beginning to see the dream for what it is, if you are ready to wake up, show your commitment by liking this video. Let this simple action be your first step out of the dream and into reality. You will discover the space within you that is untouched by thinking, the space of pure awareness. And from that awareness, your reality begins to transform on its own. You have tried changing your habits, your relationships, your work, yet the same problems return in new forms because the root is never outside. It is always in the mind. When thought is unconscious, it creates chaos. When thought is conscious, it becomes creation. This understanding is the bridge between suffering and freedom. I am not asking you to believe, I am inviting you to see. And so, in this message, we will journey through the landscape of the mind. We will see how thoughts arise, how they create patterns, and how those patterns create your experience. We will explore how to break free from the old conditioning and use thought as a tool, not as a trap. By the end of our time together, you will know how to live not as a victim of your thoughts, but as the master of them. And beyond thought, you will glimpse something even greater, the silence that has been waiting for you all along. Here is something most people completely miss. Your life is not shaped by the events that happen to you. It is shaped by the thoughts you attach to them. The event is neutral. Existence is neutral. It is your interpretation that makes it heaven or hell. If someone insults you and you laugh, the insult dissolves. It has no power. If you take it seriously, if you chew on it, if you repeat it in your head, it burns for days. The power was not in the words, it was in your mind. This is why I say thought is the invisible architect of your experience. What you call destiny is nothing but the echo of your thinking. Every moment, whether you realize it or not, you are designing the blueprint of your future with invisible ink, and that ink is thought. You may think life is happening outside, but everything begins inside. Before a tree appears, there must be a seed beneath the ground. Before a word is spoken, there must be a thought beneath the breath. Thought is the seed, and reality is only its flowering. Whatever you repeatedly think becomes the climate in which your life unfolds. When you think small, your world shrinks. When you think vast, your world expands. Your mind is the painter, and existence is the canvas. It never argues, it never chooses. It simply reflects whatever image you give it. This is the mystery. The soil of existence does not judge the seed. It will grow poison as readily as it grows roses. It only says yes. If you plant fear, it will grow fear. If you plant trust, it will grow trust. The universe is simply obedient to your consciousness. So if you want to change your life, you must first change your inner garden. Look at how you water your thoughts each day. Are you feeding anxiety or awareness? Are you allowing weeds of comparison and self-pity to grow wild in the soil of your mind? You cannot harvest peace if you plant anger. You cannot reap love if you sow resentment. I remember once telling a friend who complained that life never went his way. I said, "You have been standing before existence with a closed fist, and you wonder why nothing enters your hand. Life gives, but only to the open palm. Thought is that opening. A thought filled with trust opens the door. A thought filled with doubt closes it. The key is in your awareness. If you can watch the thought before it becomes emotion, before it becomes word, before it becomes action, you can transform it. You can choose not to water the poisonous seeds. You can choose to water only the roses." When I was young, I used to sit quietly for hours watching the clouds drift over the sky. And one day it struck me, clouds come and go, but the sky remains untouched. That is how thought works. The sky is your consciousness, eternal and pure. The clouds are your thoughts, passing and momentary. But because you have forgotten the sky, you become identified with the clouds. You become worried when they are dark, excited when they are bright. Yet the clouds do not matter. What matters is the vastness behind them. Once you see this, you begin to understand the law of reflection. The world you see outside is your inner weather projected outward. When you are peaceful, the world looks peaceful. When you are angry, even beauty irritates you. When your mind is calm, even chaos becomes harmony. If you are disturbed inside, no matter where you go, you will carry your disturbance with you. It will color everything you see. This is why people keep changing their homes, their partners, their jobs, but not their minds. They polish the mirror yet never wash the dust from their own face. And what is that dust? It is thought, layer upon layer of forgotten impressions, fears, memories, and expectations. You have collected so many that now you cannot see clearly through the mirror of your mind. Meditation is not about adding something new, it is about cleaning away what hides your reflection. Once the mirror is clear, life shines back at you exactly as it is, perfect, complete, whole. You see, the danger of unconscious thought is that it does not stop creating simply because you are unaware. Even when you sleep, your mind continues to project dreams. And when you are awake, it does the same, only with open eyes. The mind is a restless magician, creating illusion after illusion, and you are hypnotized by your own magic. The moment you wake up, the spell breaks. That is what awareness is, waking up from the dream of thought. One night, a disciple came to me, troubled by nightmares. He said, "Master, every night I dream of snakes and darkness." I told him, "It is not the night that gives you snakes. It is your mind that breeds them. Clean the mind and your nights will become peaceful." Within weeks, his dreams changed. Instead of snakes, he began to dream of rivers, of moonlight, of open sky. What changed? The outer? No, the inner. The unconscious creator suffers in his own creation because he does not know it is his own. But once you become aware, you begin to see how every experience is a mirror reflecting your own vibration. The angry man meets anger wherever he goes. The loving man finds love in every direction. Existence does not discriminate. It only echoes. If you wish to deepen your understanding of this echo, of how your inner world shapes your outer reality, I encourage you to click the join button below. By becoming a member, you support the spread of this consciousness. And for those who feel a deep gratitude for this reminder, super thanks is a beautiful way to balance the energy of giving and receiving. Now, once you see that your thoughts are the blueprint of your life, the next question arises. Who is it that thinks these thoughts? Who is the one behind the creation? And if you can find that one, if you can turn inward and discover the thinker himself, then you will have found something even more powerful than thought. You will have found the witness. When I say go beyond the mind, I do not mean that you must destroy it or fight against it, because fighting the mind is still being caught inside it. The mind loves resistance. It feeds on struggle. The more you try to silence it, the louder it becomes. The real silence happens not by suppression, but by seeing. The moment you can see the mind as separate from yourself, something miraculous begins to happen. A distance appears, and that distance is the beginning of freedom. It is like suddenly realizing you were inside a dream, and for the first time knowing that it was a dream. You do not have to stop the dream, you simply wake up. That awakening is what I call witnessing. Between two thoughts, there is a gap, a small pause, a breath of nothingness. That is you. You are not the thought that comes and goes. You are the space in which it comes and goes. Thought is temporary. You are eternal. Imagine sitting by the side of a flowing river. The water moves endlessly, sometimes gentle, sometimes wild, and you simply watch. You do not have to stop the current. You do not have to follow it. You only need to observe. The river is your mind, and the watcher is your consciousness. Most people have fallen into the water. They are being carried away by the current of their thoughts, shouting, struggling, drowning, believing the river is all there is. But the moment you step onto the bank, even for a single instant, a clarity arises. I am not the river. That moment is meditation. That is the first glimpse of your true nature. You have been lost in the movie for lifetimes, and suddenly you remember you are the audience, not the actor. Identification with thought is the greatest hypnosis that has ever happened to humanity. The moment you say, I am angry, you have identified with the passing cloud of anger and forgotten the vast sky that holds it. You are not angry. Anger is passing through you. You are not sad. Sadness is visiting for a while, but you have forgotten that all visitors eventually leave. You built houses for every emotion that has knocked on your door. Houses of identity, of belief, of story. You have become the host who forgets he is the host and starts believing he is the guest. That is the tragedy of identification. And yet the way out is simple. Don't fight the guests. Don't throw them out. Just watch them come and go. Watching is enough, because awareness burns away attachment the way fire consumes dry grass. Once a man came to me and said, "Oh, my mind never stops. I have tried everything, fasting, prayer, chanting, even sleeping pills. I can't find peace." I told him, "You have been trying to stop the waves, but the ocean doesn't need to stop for you to be calm. Just sit on the shore and watch." At first he resisted. He said, "If I don't control it, won't the mind run wild?" And I smiled and said, "Let it. The mind is already wild. Your control only makes it worse. Stop being the policeman. Be the witness." 2 months later he returned. His face was luminous, his eyes quiet. He said, "Now I understand. The waves still come, but they no longer drown me. That is the difference between living in the mind and living beyond it. When you stop fighting your thoughts and simply observe, a space opens between you and the mind. It is subtle at first, but once you taste it, you can never forget it. That space is sacred. In that space, no thought can touch you. No emotion can disturb you. No past can haunt you. The mind may still talk, but you are no longer listening as the victim. You are listening as the witness. The same mind that once enslaved you now becomes a tool, a servant, a beautiful mechanism for communication, for creativity, for play. You begin to use thought instead of being used by it. The distance brings joy, and that joy deepens into peace, and that peace flowers into bliss. The world calls the restless mind normal, but I call it a disease. The mind that is constantly thinking is like a wheel that never stops spinning. It wears itself out. When the wheel slows, when stillness comes, energy that was scattered begins to gather, and that energy transforms your very being. You become luminous from within. It is not that thoughts vanish completely. They still appear, but now they are like ripples on the surface of a vast silent lake. You can look at them, admire them even, but they no longer distort your reflection. That reflection, that awareness is who you truly are. And remember, you cannot create awareness, you can only recognize it. It has been there all along, waiting behind the noise of your thoughts. It is like the sky hiding behind clouds. The clouds move, but the sky was never gone. When I say go beyond the mind, I mean remember that you are the sky, not the weather. Don't worship the storm, watch it. Don't fight the rain, see its beauty and let it pass. The watcher never ages, never dies, never suffers. It simply sees. That seeing is your liberation. Once you know the watcher, thought becomes your instrument. Now you can use it, not be used by it. Thought is a beautiful servant, but a dangerous master. When it serves awareness, it becomes creation. When it rules awareness, it becomes chaos. And now that you have begun to see the difference, the next step is to learn how to use this tremendous energy consciously, how to turn the raw power of thought into a bridge between matter and consciousness. That is the science of conscious thinking, the art of transforming reaction into creation and noise into music. What I am about to share may sound simple, yet it is the very heart of transformation. Most people live their entire lives reacting to situations, to people, to pain, to praise, without ever realizing that every reaction is just a chain forged by unconscious thought. A word is spoken, and immediately the mind responds. A memory flickers, and instantly emotion follows. The mind is like a machine, mechanical, predictable, without awareness. You push a button, it produces anger. You push another, it produces fear. You live as a puppet moved by invisible strings. But once awareness enters, the strings fall away. Reaction turns into creation. What was automatic becomes alive. What was mechanical becomes sacred. This is the shift from being ruled by thought to ruling through awareness. And that is the beginning of the true science of conscious thinking. To understand this, you must first see the cost of unconscious thought. Every time you react, you are giving your power away to the past, because a reaction is never fresh. It is always conditioned, borrowed, old. Somebody insults you and your anger rises. That anger isn't new. It is the same anger your parents expressed, the same anger you practiced 1,000 times. It is a pattern repeating itself like a record stuck on the same song. You think you are responding to the present, but you are actually recycling the past. Creation, on the other hand, is always new. It comes from awareness, from this moment, from silence. It is spontaneous, alive, unpredictable. You can only create when you are awake, never when you are asleep. So how to move from reaction to creation? Start by slowing down. Whenever a situation arises, don't rush to respond. Just pause. Take one breath, then another. Feel your inner space. Let awareness flood the gap before the thought forms words. In that small pause, you will glimpse freedom. The freedom to choose a conscious thought instead of an unconscious one. For example, someone criticizes you. The old habit says, defend, argue, prove them wrong. But if you are aware, you might see that their words are just an echo of their own suffering. You may even smile. In that smile, you have shifted from reaction to creation. You have created space, compassion, intelligence. If you are enjoying this deep dive into the mechanics of your own mind, I invite you to explore the ebooks linked in the description. They are designed to be companions on your journey, tools to help you maintain this pause in your daily life. Awareness turns even ordinary moments into meditation. You are washing dishes, and if you are aware, that simple act becomes luminous. Your walking in awareness makes each step a dance. Your speaking in awareness transforms speech into poetry. Conscious thought isn't about thinking less, it's about thinking with clarity, with presence. When the mind becomes transparent, the light of being shines through every thought. Then even your words carry fragrance, even your silence speaks. Thoughts have their own frequency. Fear vibrates low and heavy like a drumbeat in the dark. Love vibrates high and soft like a flute carried by the wind. Every thought you think sends ripples into the universe, and those ripples attract similar vibrations back to you. That is why you meet the same patterns, the same people, the same lessons, because you are resonating with them. The law of resonance is simple. You can only experience what matches your vibration. So if you wish to change your outer life, don't fight the symptoms, change the frequency, shift the inner song, and the world will dance differently. A man once asked me, "Oh, why do I always attract chaos?" I told him, "Because your mind is chaotic, you are broadcasting confusion, and the universe, being compassionate, echoes it back so you can see it." He was silent, and then he laughed. In that laughter, something opened, because laughter is also a vibration, and it instantly breaks the pattern. When you laugh, the serious mind loses its grip. Even a single moment of joy changes your frequency. You have seen it. When you wake up happy, the whole day seems lighter. When you wake up burdened, even the sun feels dim. It is not the world that changes, it is your vibration that colors it. You cannot fight negative thoughts directly, because fighting gives them energy. Darkness disappears not by struggle, but by bringing light. Awareness is that light. Try to sit quietly and simply watch your mind. You will notice thoughts rushing like traffic on a busy street. Don't jump into the cars. Stand on the sidewalk and observe. The mind honks, it rushes, it collides, but you remain untouched. Slowly, as you keep watching, the traffic begins to thin. The more you watch, the slower it moves. And one day you will find a strange silence. The road is empty, the air is still. In that stillness, your being shines through. Once a disciple asked me, "Master, how do I stop bad thoughts?" I said, "Don't stop. Watch. Stopping is still doing. Watching is pure being. The mind is like a naughty child. The more you say don't, the more it resists. Just observe with love, and the child calms down." Within days, he returned to me with tears in his eyes. He said, "The thoughts still come, but now they pass like shadows. They no longer bite." That is the miracle of awareness. It transforms without effort. It is not suppression, it is alchemy. You see, meditation isn't about escaping thought. It is about mastering its rhythm. When you play an instrument, you don't destroy the strings, you tune them. The mind is that instrument. Learn to tune it to harmony. A tuned mind becomes the bridge between matter and consciousness. Through such a mind, the infinite expresses itself in the finite. The eternal speaks through the temporal. That is how enlightened beings create, not through effort, but through alignment. Their thoughts are transparent, their emotions clean, their words spontaneous. They don't think, they allow thinking to happen through them. When your thoughts become conscious, creation turns into art. But art is incomplete without love. The energy that gives life to every thought. Without love, thought is dry, mechanical, logical. It can build machines, but it cannot bring joy. To truly create, you must infuse thought with the fragrance of the heart. The next step, therefore, is to understand the secret of love and gratitude, the currents that turn thought into divine energy. Only then does creation stop being personal and become a celebration shared with existence itself. What most people call love is not love. It is only attachment wrapped in beautiful words. Real love is not possession. It is presence. It is not something that clings or demands. It is something that gives endlessly without calculation, without fear of loss. Love is the highest form of thought because it is the moment when thought dissolves into pure feeling, when the mind becomes so full of light that it forgets itself entirely. That is love. When love enters, thought bows down. It no longer tries to control. It begins to serve. When you think with love, you think with clarity, compassion, and intelligence that is far beyond the intellect. A single thought born out of love has more power than 1,000 prayers spoken in fear. When you infuse your thinking with love, every intention becomes creative, every word becomes healing, and every action becomes divine. You see, thought alone is dry. It can describe the ocean, but it cannot make you wet. It can give you the chemical formula for water, but it cannot quench your thirst. Love is the rain that brings life to the desert of the intellect. A man who thinks without love becomes clever but not wise. He can invent machines, but he cannot create music. He can construct cities, but he cannot build harmony. Love brings rhythm to thinking. It makes logic dance. When the mind and the heart move together, they create a bridge between heaven and earth. That bridge is what I call creative consciousness. Without love, thought is like a lamp without oil. It flickers, it fades, it dies. With love, even darkness begins to shine. Love is not something you do, it is something you remember. You were born in love. It was your first language, your first vibration. A child doesn't think about loving. He simply loves the trees, the sky, the laughter, even the tears. He is love in motion. Slowly, society teaches you to replace love with fear, with desire, with comparison. And yet, deep down, the heart keeps whispering, reminding you of the original song. To think consciously is to bring the mind back in tune with that song. When love becomes the background music of your being, every thought you have vibrates differently. It becomes soft understanding alive. It no longer creates separation, it creates communion. And then comes gratitude. The fragrance that blossoms when love meets awareness. Gratitude is the ultimate state of intelligence because it says yes to existence. When you are grateful, you are in harmony with the whole. You stop complaining, you stop asking, why me? And you begin to see the hidden blessings that were always there. Gratitude opens the heart wider, and through that opening, more grace enters. This is not a belief, it is a law. What you thank expands. When you feel grateful for life, life gives you more to feel grateful for. When you resist life, life reflects resistance back to you. There is a simple truth that few ever realize. Gratitude is not a reaction to happiness. It is the cause of it. The unhappy man waits for something good to happen before he gives thanks, and so he remains poor. He is a beggar waiting for a coin that never falls. The awakened man gives thanks first, and life becomes rich in response. A heart that says thank you to existence becomes magnetic. It draws beauty from every direction. You may have noticed when you wake up with a smile, everything seems to conspire to keep you smiling. When you wake up complaining, everything conspires to make you right. The universe is neutral, but your thoughts are commands. Gratitude gives those commands a tone of music instead of noise. If you are feeling this gratitude in your heart right now, if you feel the truth of this law resonating within you, you can express it through the Super Thanks feature below. It is a beautiful way to complete the circle of giving and receiving. I remember telling a disciple who once said to me, "Osho, I have nothing to be grateful for." He was very depressed, very dark. I asked him, "Are you breathing?" He said, "Yes." I said, "Then there is something to be grateful for." Gratitude begins where complaint ends. I told him to begin with a single breath. Just watch it and say thank you. It will take you to the stars. A few months later, he came back transformed. He said, "Now everything feels like a gift. Even the challenges seem beautiful." That is what happens when gratitude becomes your lens. Everything begins to sparkle with meaning. The same life that once felt heavy suddenly feels like a song. Love and gratitude are the highest frequencies of consciousness. When you think from that frequency, your thoughts stop creating problems and start creating miracles. A mind filled with love cannot hurt, cannot hate, cannot divide. It becomes a healer. That is why the greatest masters have always spoken of love not as an emotion, but as the essence of being. Love is the gravity of the soul. It holds everything together. And when gratitude joins love, it becomes grace. Love opens the door. Gratitude invites the divine to enter. But most people never taste this because they are too busy wanting. They keep asking life for more. And their asking is born from a sense of lack. The mind says, "I will be grateful when I get what I want." But existence is more intelligent than the mind. It waits for your heart to open first. When you stop wanting, you start allowing. Wanting says, "I don't have." Allowing says, "I already have enough." The moment you allow, abundance flows. This is why I tell you, stop chasing, stop demanding, stop expecting. Sit silently and say thank you for what already is. Let gratitude fill your being until even your thoughts begin to hum with appreciation. Then life will start to respond in the same language. I once knew a man who was obsessed with control. Every moment of his life was a battle against what is. He planned everything, tried to manipulate everyone, and yet he was always anxious. He was building a fortress, but he was living in a prison. One day he came to me exhausted. I said, "Why don't you let go? Why not try trusting life?" He looked at me with terror and said, "If I stop controlling, everything will fall apart." I laughed softly and said, "Everything is already falling apart. That is why you are here. Let it fall. You will fall into grace." A few weeks later, I met him again, and there was peace on his face. He said, "For the first time, I did nothing, and everything began to flow on its own." That is the power of allowing. When you stop pushing the river, you discover it was already flowing toward the ocean. Love and gratitude are the rivers that lead back to awareness. Once your thoughts begin to carry this current, they stop belonging to you. They belong to the whole. They become the language through which existence speaks. If you wish to deepen your understanding of this flow, to learn how to stop pushing the river, I invite you to join our channel community by clicking the join button. It is a space for those who are ready to let go and trust the current. When you live this way, creation no longer feels like something you do. It feels like something that happens through you. Life itself begins to breathe through your being. And when you have entered this space where love and gratitude have become one, you are ready for the final understanding that even creation itself is not yours. You are not the doer, you are the channel. The energy that flows through you is not personal, it is cosmic. You are not creating reality, existence is creating through you. You are only the instrument, the flute through which the divine plays its music. When love has ripened and gratitude has flowered, something extraordinary begins to unfold. You no longer stand apart from life, trying to direct it, force it, or control it. You begin to flow with it. You become one with the current, one with the great pulse that beats through every tree, every river, every breath. At this stage, the separation between you and existence starts to disappear. You realize that there was never a boundary, only the illusion of one. The same life that moves the stars moves your heart. The same intelligence that turns the seed into a tree is guiding your every step. And when this realization dawns, you stop asking, "What should I do?" and start feeling, "What does life want to do through me?" You no longer live, you are lived. That is co-creation. It is not you creating reality, it is reality expressing itself through you, effortlessly, gracefully, perfectly. This is the secret of the masters, the poets, the mystics. They don't push, they allow. They have understood the great law. Creation is not a doing, it is a happening. The river does not struggle to reach the ocean. It flows naturally toward it, guided by gravity, by the pull of the whole. The flower doesn't plan to bloom. It simply opens when the sun touches it. The bird doesn't calculate how to sing. The song pours from its being because singing is its nature. In the same way, when you surrender to the intelligence of existence, your actions stop being personal. They become spontaneous, effortless, alive. You move, but there is no mover. You act, but there is no actor. You become transparent, and through that transparency, the divine creates its miracles. It is important to understand that surrender is not weakness. The ego thinks surrender means losing control, but in truth it is the discovery that control was never yours to begin with. Control belongs to the false self. Trust belongs to the real. When you trust, life unfolds exactly as it should. You become aligned with the rhythm of the cosmos. Then whatever you touch begins to bloom because it carries the fragrance of harmony. Your thoughts, your words, your presence begin to heal without effort. It is as if the whole universe is breathing through you. There was once a story I love to tell. A drop of water fell from the sky. Terrified of losing itself in the vast ocean below, it screamed, "I will be gone, I will disappear." But the ocean replied, "You will not disappear, you will become me." That is what surrender is, the disappearance of the illusion of separation. You are not losing anything real, you are merging with something infinite. When the drop joins the ocean, it doesn't vanish, it becomes the ocean. It becomes vast, boundless, eternal. When you live in surrender, miracles become ordinary. You speak a word and it carries energy that transforms. You think a thought and it manifests effortlessly. But here is the paradox. The one who surrenders no longer cares about results. He acts out of joy, not desire. He moves because movement happens. He creates not to achieve something, but because creation is His nature. In this space, you become a dancer, and existence becomes the dance. You are no longer separate. The dancer and the dance are one. And then comes the highest stage, beyond even co-creation, beyond doing and not doing, the state of pure being. This is the realm of silence where thought dissolves completely and only awareness remains. Here there is no effort to create, no intention, no direction. Yet creation continues in its own mysterious way. You sit in stillness, and still the flowers bloom, the rivers flow, the stars move. You have become so one with existence that even silence speaks through you. Once a disciple asked me, "Master, how will I know when I have reached this state?" And I said, "When there is no one left to ask, because the one who wants to know is the last trace of separation. When that drops, you don't reach the truth, you become it. You don't see reality, you are reality. Thought and silence, sound and stillness, creation and creator, all dissolve into one vast ocean of being. There is no longer you meditating, there is only meditation itself happening as existence. And yet, even after this realization, life continues. The body moves, words are spoken, laughter happens, but now there is no doer behind them. Everything flows naturally like wind through trees, like rain falling on thirsty earth. You become a passage for the sacred. That is what enlightenment is. Not becoming special, but becoming ordinary in a divine way. You live simply, but in your simplicity there is an immense grace. You don't shine like a diamond, you glow like a flame. Softly, silently, you illuminate everything around you. When thought ends, life begins. When you disappear, existence reveals itself. You don't need to chase creation. You are creation. You don't need to find truth. You are truth. The creator and the created are two sides of one infinite coin turning endlessly in the light of awareness. In this realization, the journey completes itself, and yet it begins again in a deeper, ever-expanding way, because existence has no ending, only layers of awakening, each revealing another mystery. So I tell you, let go completely. Surrender even the idea of surrender. Trust life as the river trusts the ocean, as the seed trusts the soil, as the breath trusts the wind. When you live like that, effortlessly, joyfully, fearlessly, you have become one with the great pulse of creation. You are no longer separate from the song. You are the music itself. The mind is a painter, and life is its canvas. Whatever color you choose to hold within, that is what existence reflects back to you. When you carry fear, you see a dangerous world. When you carry love, you see a garden. The outer is always a mirror, a reflection of the inner state. But the problem is humanity has forgotten that the brush is in its own hands. You keep painting misery and then wonder why the picture looks dark. You fill your mind with doubts, judgments, resentments, and then ask, why does my life feel heavy? It feels heavy because your thoughts are heavy. You think in chains and your life becomes a prison. You think in freedom and your life becomes flight. It is that simple. Yet so few dare to believe it, because believing this means taking responsibility for everything you experience, and the ego trembles at that. The ego wants to blame the world. Awareness accepts that the world is your creation. You see, thoughts are not passive. They are not clouds passing through a vacant sky. They are forces, energies, vibrations. Every thought carries a frequency, and that frequency shapes reality. What you think about yourself becomes the quality of your energy, and your energy magnetizes matching circumstances. You can call it karma, you can call it attraction, you can call it resonance. It is the same truth under different names. Thought is the seed, emotion is the water, action is the sunlight, and your life is the tree that grows from them. If the seed is rotten, no matter how much light you give it, the tree cannot blossom. That is why changing your outer circumstances without transforming your inner climate never works. You may change your job, your house, your partner, your religion, but if the thought remains the same, you will recreate the same misery in a different form. If you are ready to break this cycle, if you are ready to stop recreating the same misery, I invite you to dive deeper with the wisdom contained in our ebooks. The link is in the description. They are maps for the territory of your own soul. Every time a negative thought arises, I am not enough, I cannot do this, life is unfair, you are affirming limitation, you are hypnotizing yourself into smallness. But thought is not truth. Thought is only a habit. It is a sound that has repeated so many times that you have mistaken it for reality. Watch it, observe it, don't fight it, just watch it with clarity. The moment you watch a thought without becoming it, you break the spell. A space appears between you and the thought, and in that space, freedom is born. That space is the beginning of mastery. When you stop believing every thought, you stop being a prisoner of the mind. When you watch long enough, something miraculous happens. Thoughts begin to slow down. They become softer, lighter, almost transparent. The mind no longer feels like a storm. It becomes like a breeze moving through the trees. Then when you think consciously. You no longer think by accident. You think with awareness. This is the true power of thought. Not the scattered thinking of the unconscious mind, but the silent precision of the awakened one. A single conscious thought born from awareness carries more power than 1,000 unconscious ones. One thought from silence can change your whole destiny. But remember, the goal is not to control thought. Control is violence. The goal is to understand thought, to see its movement so clearly that it loses its grip on you. You are not meant to be a thinker. You are meant to be the space in which thought appears and disappears. The thinker is temporary. The space is eternal. The thinker comes and goes. The watcher remains. When you know yourself as the watcher, thought becomes your servant, not your master. Then you can use thought creatively to build, to heal, to love, without being trapped by it. Have you noticed when your mind is quiet, even for a few moments, the world looks different? Colors seem deeper, sounds richer, life feels alive again. That aliveness is reality without the interference of thought. Thought clouds perception. It filters, labels, judges, divides. It turns the living mystery into a mechanical idea. When the filter drops, you don't just see life, you become life. You don't just think about existence, you are existence. In that state, every thought that arises is pure, sacred, creative. It is not a reaction, it is revelation. This is what I mean when I say your thoughts create your reality. Not because thought alone has magical power, but because awareness, the consciousness behind thought, is the very substance of reality. When you think from ego, you create separation. When you think from awareness, you create harmony. The difference is not in the words, but in the energy from which they arise. You can say, I love you from fear, and it will create attachment. You can say the same words from awareness, and it will create freedom. You can look at the world through the mind and see problems, or you can look through awareness and see possibilities. The eyes are the same, but the seer has changed. And slowly, as this understanding deepens, something even more profound begins to unfold. The realization that thoughts themselves are not enemies. They are divine instruments, expressions of consciousness in motion. Without thought, existence could not play, could not create. Thought is not the problem. Identification with thought is the problem. You have forgotten that you are not the mind, you are the silence behind it. You have been so busy listening to the song that you have forgotten you are the listener. When you live in that silence, thought becomes like waves upon the surface of a still ocean. The ocean doesn't resist the waves, it allows them. The waves rise and fall, but the ocean remains unmoved. That is how awareness functions. It allows thought, emotion, experience, but it doesn't become them. It allows the storm, but it knows the storm is not the sky. This allowing is the highest form of discipline. It is not the discipline of a soldier who follows orders. It is the discipline of a lover who trusts the beloved. When you trust existence, you do not need to defend yourself against your own mind. You do not need to build walls of repression. You simply remain open. And in that openness, the mind purifies itself. It is like a stream of water. If the water flows, it remains fresh. If you stop it, if you dam it up, it becomes stagnant. It becomes poisonous. Your mind has become stagnant because you have been holding on to thoughts, hoarding memories, clinging to old hurts. You have made your mind a storage room instead of a river. Let it flow. Let the anger flow. Let the sadness flow. Let the fear flow. Do not hold anything back, but remember the secret. Let it flow while you watch from the bank. Do not jump into the river. If you jump in, you will be swept away to the past or the future. And this brings us to one of the most significant illusions the mind creates, the illusion of time. The mind cannot exist in the present moment. Have you ever noticed this? Watch your mind, it is always oscillating like a pendulum. Either it swings to the past memory, regret, nostalgia, or it swings to the future imagination, hope, worry. It never rests in the middle. It never rests in the now. Why? Because in the now the mind dissolves. In the present moment there is no thinking. There is only experiencing. When you are truly here, fully here, the mind stops. The machinery halts. There is just you and the existence vibrating together. The mind is afraid of the present because the present is the death of the mind. So the mind keeps you busy with what has been or what will be. It tells you tomorrow will be better, or it tells you yesterday was so beautiful. It is a trick, a very cunning trick to keep you missing life, because life is not yesterday and life is not tomorrow. Life is only this moment, this breath, this heartbeat. If you are not here, you are nowhere. You are a ghost haunting your own life. You eat, but you do not taste the food because your mind is in the office. You walk, but you do not feel the ground because your mind is arguing with a friend. You make love, but you are not with your partner. You are with your fantasies. You are living a second-hand life, a life filtered through the screen of time. And I say to you, smash the screen, step out of the pendulum, Stop swinging between the ghosts of the past and the ghosts of the future. Come to the center. The center is uncomfortable for the ego because the ego needs time to survive. The ego is nothing but your past accumulated. It is your history, your name, your fame, your failures. Without the past, who are you? If I take away your memory, your story, your conditioning, what remains? A vast, silent emptiness remains. A pure presence remains. That is your true face, the face you had before your parents were born, the face you will have after your body is gone. But the ego is terrified of this emptiness. It feels like death, and in a way it is death. It is the death of the false so that the real can be born. Meditation is the art of dying voluntarily, dying to the past, dying to the future, dying to the ego, so that you can be resurrected in the eternal now. If you feel this call to return to the present, if you are tired of living in the ghosts of time, signify your return by liking this video. Let it be an anchor, a physical action that says, I am here. When you live in the now, you live intensely. Your flame burns total. You do not hold anything back for tomorrow. And when you live totally, there is no regret. Regret only comes when you have lived partially, when you have been lukewarm. The mind loves to be lukewarm. It likes safety, it likes known paths. But life is wild, life is dangerous, life is unknown. To unlock the mind's full potential, you must be willing to step into the unknown. You must be willing to drop the map and trust your inner compass. The mind gives you a map. It says, follow this road, get this degree, marry this person, buy this house, and you will be happy. It is a map drawn by others who were also lost. It does not lead to happiness, it leads to comfort. And comfort is the grave of the soul. I am here to disturb your comfort. I am here to take away your map. Because only when you are lost, truly lost, do you begin to look inward. Only when the outer roads are blocked do you turn to the inner path. Don't be afraid of the unknown. The mind will say, it is dark, it is insecure. Yes, it is insecure. Life is insecurity. Only in the cemetery is there total security. Nothing changes there. But to be alive means to be changing, flowing, risking. When you step into the unknown with awareness, fear transforms into adventure. The trembling is the same, the energy is the same, but your attitude changes it. The coward trembles with fear, the brave man trembles with excitement. Both are trembling, but the coward moves back and the brave man moves forward. Move forward into your own silence. Move forward into the spaces of your mind that you have been afraid to visit. You will find that there are no monsters there, only shadows. And shadows cannot hurt you. They only disappear when you bring the light. If you wish to arm yourself with more of this light, to understand the geography of your own inner world, I invite you to explore the ebooks available in the description. They are lanterns for those willing to walk into the unknown. As you go deeper, you will discover that the mind is not a single entity. It is a crowd. You are not one person, you are many. One moment you are loving, the next moment you are hateful. One moment you decide to wake up early, the next moment you decide to sleep in. Who is deciding and who is changing the decision? It is a crowd inside, many voices, many desires, all pulling you in different directions. This is why you feel fragmented. This is why you feel pulled apart. You are a house divided against itself. The conscious mind says yes. The unconscious mind says no. The heart says go. the head says stop. This constant civil war drains your energy. It makes you weak. A man who is one, whose fragments have dissolved into a unity, is a powerhouse. His energy is laser-like. It cuts through obstacles. It creates reality. How to become one? Not by suppressing the crowd. If you suppress a voice, it will only shout louder from the basement. You become one by witnessing the crowd. You sit in the center and you watch the many faces of your mind. You watch the ambitious one, the lazy one, the angry one, the saint, the sinner. You watch them all without identifying with any of them. You say, I see you, but I am not you. Slowly, as the witness grows stronger, the crowd begins to settle. The voices lose their power because they are no longer getting energy from your identification. They begin to merge, they begin to fall into a harmony. A new crystallization happens. You become an individual. And remember the meaning of the word individual. It means indivisible, that which cannot be divided, that which is whole. When you are whole, your mind functions in a completely different way. It is no longer a marketplace, it is an orchestra. All the different instruments are different aspects of your mind, but now they are tuned to the same rhythm, they are playing the same symphony. And the conductor of this orchestra is awareness. When your mind becomes an orchestra, creativity explodes. You don't have to try to be creative. Your very life becomes a work of art. The way you walk, the way you sit, the way you look at a flower, everything carries a signature of grace. This is the potential that is sleeping inside you. It is waiting for you to pick up the baton of awareness and conduct your own symphony. But you are too busy listening to the noise of the audience, the opinions of others, the judgments of society. Turn your back to the audience. Face the music is inside. And to hear this music, you must learn the art of listening. Most people do not know how to listen. They are only waiting for their turn to speak, or they are listening through a filter of judgment. Is this right? Is this wrong? Do I agree? Do I disagree? While you are judging, you are not listening. You are arguing in your head. To listen means to be empty. It means to put aside your knowledge, your prejudices, your conclusions, and just receive. When you listen to the wind in the pines, do you judge it? Do you say, this sound should be a little higher, a little lower? No, you simply listen. You drink it in. Listen to people the same way. Listen to your own thoughts the same way, without judgment, without commentary. In that pure listening, a connection happens. You become one with the sound, and in that oneness, you understand things that words cannot convey. You understand the silence between the words. If you are enjoying this message, if you are learning to listen with your heart, consider joining our community by clicking the join button. It is a gathering of those who are learning to hear the silence, and for those who feel moved to give back, super thanks is a way to keep this stream of wisdom flowing. The mind is very talkative. It talks to you all day. It talks to you in your sleep. It creates a wall of words between you and reality. You see a flower, and immediately the mind says, this is a rose. It is red. It is beautiful. The moment the word rose appears, the real flower is gone. You are no longer seeing the flower. You are seeing the word. You are seeing the concept. The word rose is not the rose. The word love is not love. The word God is not God. Language is useful for utility, but it is a barrier for experience. To unlock the mind's potential, you must learn to put language aside You must learn to look at the world with non-verbal eyes. Try it. Look at a tree without naming it. Look at the sky without calling it sky. Just look at the form, the color, the texture. Suddenly the tree is no longer an object. It is a presence. It is alive. It is speaking to you in a language older than words. This is what I call direct perception. The surface mind lives in labels. The deep mind lives in direct contact. When you drop the labels, the world becomes new again. It becomes fresh, vibrant, mysterious. You return to the eyes of a child. Jesus said, "Unless you become like little children, you cannot enter the kingdom of God." He was talking about this innocent gaze, this mind that has not yet been covered by the dust of words. You can reclaim this innocence. It is not lost, it is only forgotten. The way back is through the gaps. Between two words, there is a gap. Between two breaths, there is a gap. Between two thoughts, there is a gap. Usually you are so focused on the words, the breaths, the thoughts, that you miss the gap. But the gap is the door. Focus on the silence. When a thought ends and before the next one begins, there is a tiny interval of silence. Catch it, fall into it. In that interval you are free. In that interval you are pure consciousness. At first the gap will be very short, a microsecond. But as you pay attention to it, it expands. It becomes a second, then a minute. And one day the gap becomes your reality and thoughts become just occasional visitors. When the background becomes silence, the mind becomes a superpower. Because now thoughts are not draining you. They are emerging from the infinite source of energy. A thought that comes out of silence is like an arrow shot from a strong bow. It goes straight to the target, it manifests. The ordinary mind is like a leaking bucket. It has no power because the energy is leaking through 1,000 holes of useless thinking. Meditation plugs the holes. The energy accumulates, it rises, it becomes a reservoir of power, and then whatever you wish for happens. Not because you struggle for it, but because your wish carries the weight of the whole existence. You are no longer wishing against the current, you are wishing with the current. But at that stage, a strange thing happens. You stop wishing for trivial things. You stop wishing for big houses and fast cars. Not that they are wrong, but they seem like toys. You start wishing for truth. You start wishing for light. You start wishing for love. Your desires transform. They become less about having and more about being. You don't want to possess the flower. You want to be the flower's fragrance. You don't want to own the world. You want to serve the world. This service is not a duty, it is a sharing. You are so full of joy, so full of peace that it overflows. You cannot contain it. You have to share it. Just as the sun shares its light, just as the cloud shares its rain, it is your nature. This is the ultimate potential of the mind, to become a vehicle for compassion, to become a medium through which the divine loves the world. But to reach there, you must pass through the fire of awareness. You must burn down the rubbish that you have collected, the prejudices, the judgments, the jealousies, the comparisons. Comparison is a poison. The mind loves to compare. He is richer than me. She is more beautiful than me. I am more intelligent than him. Comparison keeps you in the ego. It keeps you looking at others instead of looking at yourself. A rose does not compare itself to a lotus. It does not try to be a lotus. It is content being a rose, and in that contentment it is beautiful. If the rose tried to be a lotus, it would be ugly. It would be a fake. You are trying to be someone else. That is the root of your misery. You are wearing a mask that does not fit. You are acting a role that was not written for you. Drop the mask. Be yourself. The mind will scream, but if I am myself, no one will love me. I must be perfect. That is the voice of conditioning. The truth is, only when you are yourself can you be loved. Because only a real person can receive love. A mask cannot receive love. When you drop the comparison, the mind relaxes. A great burden is lifted. You don't have to compete, you don't have to prove anything. You are enough. Just as you are a masterpiece of existence. Existence never repeats itself. There has never been anyone like you before, and there will never be anyone like you again. You are unique. Celebrate your uniqueness. The mind wants you to be a carbon copy. Society wants you to be a carbon copy. It is safer that way. But awareness wants you to be the original face. It takes courage to be an original. It takes guts to stand alone. But that aloneness is not loneliness. Understand the difference. Loneliness is when you miss the other. Aloneness is when you find yourself. Loneliness is a sickness. Aloneness is a health. When you are alone, you are all one. You are complete. You do not need anyone to complete you. You can share your completeness, but you do not need a crutch. The mind creates dependency. It says, I cannot live without him. I cannot live without her. That is not love, that is addiction. When you unlock the deeper mind, you discover an inner spring of joy that does not depend on anyone. You become a light unto yourself. And when you are a light unto yourself, you light up the path for others, not by preaching but by your presence. We are coming closer to the end of our journey, but before we part, remember that this journey is circular. You can start it at any moment, you can start it right now. The mind is a beautiful mechanism, but it has to be put in its place. It is not the king, it is the cabinet minister. The king is your consciousness. Place the king on the throne, and the kingdom will flourish. If you have found value in this session, if you feel the king awakening within you, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Help us build a kingdom of conscious beings, and do not forget, the mind will try to trick you again. It will say, this was a nice talk, and then go back to its old habits. Vigilance is needed. Constant vigilance. Be a warrior of light. The sword you carry is awareness. The shield you carry is silence. And the battle is not against the world. The battle is against your own unconsciousness. It is a beautiful battle. It is the only battle worth fighting, because in this battle, even if you fall, you rise stronger. Every moment of awareness is a victory. Start small. Watch one breath. Watch one step. Watch one bite of food. Accumulate these small moments of watching. They will gather together and become a great fire. A fire that will burn away the false and leave only the gold. You are that gold. You have always been that gold. You just forgot. I am here to remind you. Now, as we move toward the silence, let my words fade. Do not hold on to the words. Hold on to the space. The words pointed to, the finger pointed to the moon, is not the moon. Don't bite the finger, look at the moon. The mind is the finger. Consciousness is the moon. Look up. Look in. The sky is waiting. The ocean is waiting. You are ready. You are ready because you were never not ready. The sun does not prepare to shine. It simply shines. The flower does not prepare to smell sweet. It is its nature. Enlightenment is your nature. It is not an achievement. It is a recognition. Most people think enlightenment is something far away, something for special people, for mountain tops and caves. That is the ego's trick. The ego wants to make it a goal, because as long as it is a goal, it is in the future. And as long as it is in the future, the ego can survive. The ego cannot survive in the present. If you say, I am enlightened right now, the ego laughs and says, you, look at you. You are angry, you are greedy, you are fearful. How can you be enlightened? And you believe the ego. You say, yes, I must work harder, I must meditate more, I must purify myself. And so the chase begins again. The dog chasing its own tail. You can chase it for lifetimes, but you will never catch it, because the catcher is the caught. Stop chasing. Stop trying to become. Just be. Being is the only truth. Becoming is a dream. You are trying to become a better person, a spiritual person, a holy person. Drop all these adjectives. Just be a person. Just be a presence. In that simple being, all the holiness is already there. All the spirituality is already there. When you are just sitting doing nothing, the spring comes and the grass grows by itself. That is the secret. The grass grows by itself. You don't have to pull it. This doing nothing is the hardest thing for the mind. The mind is a doer. It wants to fix, to change, to improve. It is a mechanic. But your soul is not a machine. It does not need fixing. It needs seeing. When you look at your anger without trying to fix it, a miracle happens. The anger changes its quality. It is no longer a fire that burns you. It becomes a fire that purifies you. It becomes energy. Energy is neutral. The same electricity can kill you in an electric chair or light up your house. It depends on how you use it. Anger is electricity. Fear is electricity. Lust is electricity. Do not condemn them. Do not say this is bad. The moment you say bad, you have created a division. You have started a war inside. And a house divided cannot stand. Tantra says, use the energy. Transform the poison into medicine. How? By awareness. When you are angry, sit with the anger. Close your eyes and watch it. Where is it in the body? Is it in the stomach? Is it in the chest? What is its color? What is its texture? Don't say, I am angry. Say, I see anger. Suddenly you are the watcher on the hill, and anger is the traffic in the valley. You are safe. And because you are not feeding it with your identification, the anger begins to evaporate. It releases its energy back to you. You feel stronger, fresher. This is the alchemy of the inner world. You turn base metals into gold, but you can only do this if you accept yourself totally. Conditioning has taught you self-condemnation. I am a sinner. I am unworthy. This is the greatest crime humanity has committed against itself. To make you feel guilty for being human, I say to you, you are not a sinner. You are a seed of the divine. You may be asleep, but a sleeping king is still a king. He does not lose his kingdom just because he is dreaming of being a beggar. Wake up, shake off the dream of guilt, celebrate your humanity, celebrate your body, your senses, your feelings. God is not found by denying life. God is found by diving so deeply into life that you touch the bottom, and at the bottom of life you find the source. If you are ready to drop the guilt and embrace the celebration, if you are ready to be a king instead of a beggar, show your sovereignty by liking this video. Let it be a decree from your own heart. There are two types of people: those who renounce the world and those who rejoice in the world. The old religions taught renunciation. They said the world is a trap, escape it. I teach rejoicing. I say the world is a temple, enter it. Don't run away to the Himalayas. The real test is in the marketplace. If you can be silent in the middle of noise, that is real silence. If you can be loving in the middle of hate, that is real love. It is easy to be peaceful when you are alone, but that peace is fragile. The moment you meet a difficult person, it shatters. Go into the world. Let the world be your sandpaper. Let it polish you. Every difficult person is a master. Every difficult situation is a lesson. If your wife is nagging, she is a Zen master. She is hitting you with a stick to wake you up. Don't get angry at the stick. Look at your own reaction. Why does it bother you? Where is the button she is pushing? The button is in you. She is just the finger. Thank her. She is showing you where you are still asleep. If you understand this, your whole life becomes a meditation. Walking to work is meditation. Washing dishes is meditation. Listening to your children is meditation. You don't need a separate time for it. Meditation is like breathing. It should be continuous, but to make it continuous, you must drop the seriousness. Seriousness is a disease. It is the cancer of the soul. Religious people are often very serious. They have long faces. They look as if they are carrying the weight of the universe. God is not serious. Look at existence. Look at the giraffe. Look at the parrot. Look at the platypus. God has a sense of humor. He is playing. Existence is a Leela, a divine play. If you cannot laugh, you cannot pray. Laughter is the shortest distance between two people. It is also the shortest distance between you and God. When you laugh totally, the ego disappears. For a moment you are not there. Only the laughter is there. That moment is sacred. I want you to become a Zorba the Buddha. Zorba represents the earth, the body, the dance, the wine, the joy of the senses. Buddha represents the sky, the silence, the awareness, the compassion. In the past, you had to choose either be a Zorba or be a Buddha. If you chose Zorba, you remained superficial. If you chose Buddha, you became dry and dead. I say choose both. Be Zorba and Buddha. Let your roots go deep into the earth like Zorba, and let your branches touch the stars like Buddha. Be whole. When you are whole, you are holy. This wholeness is what I call the new man. The new man is not afraid of his desires, but he is not enslaved by them either. He enjoys food, but he is not a glutton. He enjoys sex, but he is not obsessed. He enjoys comfort, but he is not attached. He lives in the world, but he is not of the world. He is like a lotus flower in the water. The water touches it, but the water does not wet it. This balance is the razor's edge. It is easy to fall to one side, to become a monk or a hedonist. It is difficult to remain in the middle, but the middle is where the magic happens. If this vision of the new man resonates with you, if you want to support the spread of this rebellious wholeness, consider becoming a member by clicking the join button. It is a way to say yes to both the earth and the sky. And for those who have found laughter in these words, a super thanks is a beautiful way to share that joy. Now, let us talk about the mind's addiction to problems. Have you noticed? If you don't have a problem, you feel uneasy. You invent one. You worry about things that haven't happened yet. You worry about things that happened 10 years ago. Why? Because the ego feeds on problems. If everything is perfect, what is the function of the ego? It has nothing to do. It feels useless, so it creates a drama. He insulted me. She didn't call me. I might lose my job. The economy is crashing. The ego loves a crisis. In a crisis, you feel important. You are the center of a tragedy. You are the hero or the victim. Both are ego trips. A man without problems is a man without a story. And the ego is nothing but a story. To unlock the mind, you must be willing to be storyless. You must be willing to be nobody. When you are nobody, you are everybody. When you are empty of problems, you are full of peace. But the mind will say, but these are real problems. I have to pay the rent. My health is failing. Yes, these are situations, but they become problems only when you resist them, when you complain about them, when you make a psychological identity out of them. Pain is inevitable, suffering is optional. Pain is physical, suffering is mental. You have a headache, that is pain. Why me? It always happens to me. I can't stand this. That is suffering. Deal with the pain, take medicine, rest, but drop the suffering, drop the commentary. When you drop the commentary, the pain is just a sensation. It is sharp, it is intense, but it is not bad, it is just energy. You can even watch pain. If you watch it intensely, you will see that it is not solid. It pulses, it comes and goes, and in the very center of the pain there is a silence. This is a great secret. If you go to the very heart of pain, you find bliss. Because at the center of everything, even pain is the divine. But we run away from pain, we take pills, we distract ourselves, we numb ourselves. So we remain on the periphery. Don't run away. Turn around and face the tiger. When you face the tiger disappears. The mind is a coward. It only chases you when you run. If you stop and say, come on, do your worst, the mind is baffled. It doesn't know what to do with a man who is not afraid. Fear is the fuel of the mind. Fear of death, fear of loneliness, fear of judgment. But what is fear? It is just an absence of love. Just as darkness is the absence of light. You cannot fight darkness. You cannot throw it out with a shovel. You have to bring in the light. Love is the light. Not love for someone else, but love as a state of being. When you are loving, fear cannot exist. They cannot coexist. Just as light and shadow cannot coexist. So do not try to be brave. Bravery is just suppressing fear. Try to be loving. Love yourself. Love your breathing. Love the tree outside your window. Love the tea you are drinking. When you fill your moments with love, fear has no space to enter. And without fear, the mind loses its grip. We are entering a very delicate space now, the space of no mind. This does not mean you become a vegetable. It does not mean you lose your intelligence. It means you lose the noise. In no mind, the computer is silent, but it is ready. If a question is asked, the answer comes, not from memory, but from the source. It is a fresh answer. It is a response, not a reaction. A reaction comes from the past. A response comes from the present. If you look at a flower and say, it is a rose, that is a reaction. You have used an old file. If you look at the flower and you just smile and your eyes fill with tears of gratitude, that is a response. You have met the flower in the now. Life is demanding a response from you every moment, but you are giving reactions. That is why you are bored. Reactions are repetitive. Responses are always new. To be responsive, you must be sensitive. You must clean the doors of perception. Your senses are clogged with habit. You eat without tasting, look without seeing, touch without feeling. Wake up your senses. When you touch a stone, be the touch. Feel the coldness, the roughness. Let the stone touch you back. It is a dialogue. The world is not dead matter. It is alive energy. Physicists are now saying what mystics have said for thousands of years: there is no matter, only energy. The wall, the chair, your body, it is all vibrating energy, and it is all connected. You are not an island, you are part of the continent of existence. When you hurt another, you hurt yourself. When you love another, you love yourself. This is not poetry, this is physics, and it is spirituality. When you realize this interconnection, responsibility arises. Not duty, responsibility. The ability to respond. You become careful, you become gentle, you walk softly on the earth. You stop trying to conquer nature, you start cooperating with nature. And when you cooperate with nature, nature reveals her secrets to you. The mind wants to conquer. It calls it science. It calls it progress. But look at what this conquest has done. We have destroyed the planet. We have poisoned the rivers. We have polluted the air. We are killing our own mother. This is the result of the aggressive mind, the mind that sees itself as separate. The heart knows no separation. The heart knows we are one. The solution to the world's problems is not political, it is spiritual. Unless man changes his heart, nothing will change. We will just create new forms of misery. You are the revolution. Don't wait for the government to change. Don't wait for the Messiah to come. You are the Messiah. You are the one you have been waiting for. Change your frequency and you change the world. Be a light, and when many lights gather, the darkness disappears. If you feel this responsibility, if you feel the call to be a guardian of this planet and this consciousness, join us, subscribe, share this message. Let us create a chain reaction of light. For those who wish to arm themselves with the tools of this revolution, the tools of silence and awareness, our e-books are waiting for you in the description. They are manuals for the modern mystic. Now let us go deeper into the silence. Words are just the surface. The real message is in the gaps. Listen to the silence between my words. That silence is me. That silence is you. That silence is God. The mind cannot understand silence. It tries to interpret it. It gets bored. Nothing is happening, it says, but in silence, everything is happening. The seed is breaking open, the roots are going down, the transformation is taking place. Don't be afraid of boredom. Boredom is a threshold. If you stay with boredom, if you watch it, it turns into peace. Most people run away the moment they feel bored. They turn on the TV, they pick up the phone. So they never cross the threshold. Stay, sit, be bored. Let the boredom be there, watch it. Suddenly the quality changes, the restlessness goes, a cool breeze enters. You have arrived home. Home is not a place, it is a state of relaxation. When you are not going anywhere, you are home. The mind is always going somewhere. It is a traveler. Consciousness is the destination. You are already there. You just have to unpack your bags. Unpack your desires. Unpack your expectations. Unpack your fears. Throw them away. You don't need them. You are traveling light now. When you are empty, the divine can enter. The divine is shy. It does not enter a house that is full of guests. If your mind is full of thoughts, God waits outside. Empty the house, throw out the furniture of the past, make room, and the moment you are empty, the guest arrives. He has been knocking for centuries, but you were too noisy to hear. Now you are listening. Now you are ready. This readiness is everything. It is the beginning of the end of suffering. It is the dawn of a new day. Do not think about how long it will take. Time is a trick. It can happen in a split second. It can happen right now. It is not a gradual process. It is a sudden jump. A jump from the mind to no mind, from the ego to the self, from death to immortality. Are you ready to jump? The edge is right here. The abyss is right here. It looks scary, but it is not an abyss of death, it is an abyss of life. Jump into your own being. Don't ask for a guarantee. There are no guarantees in life. Only insurance companies give guarantees, and they are lying. Life is a gamble. Gamble everything. If you win bliss. If you lose your misery. What have you got to lose? You have nothing to lose but your chains. So gather your courage, take a deep breath, and let go. Let go of the shore. The river knows the way. You don't have to swim, just float. Floating is trust. Swimming is ego. When you swim, you are fighting the river. You get tired, you might drown. When you float, the river carries you, and the river is going to the ocean. It is inevitable. You cannot miss it. You are destined for the ocean. You are destined for godliness. It is your birthright. Claim it, not by begging, but by waking up. The alarm is ringing. Can you hear it? It is ringing in your heart. It is ringing in every beat of your pulse. Wake up. Wake up to the beauty that surrounds you. Wake up to the silence that is within you. Wake up to the mystery that you are. You are not a problem to be solved. You are a mystery to be lived. Live it, drink it, dance it, and as you dance, the dancer disappears, and only the dance remains. That is the ultimate experience. That is the final door. But before we walk through that final door, there is one last secret, one last key that I must place in your hand. A key that locks the door of the mind from the outside, so you never have to be a prisoner again. That key is, the door was never locked. You have been shaking the bars, screaming for freedom, digging tunnels, but you never checked the handle. The door is wide open. It has always been open. The only thing keeping you in the cell is your belief that you are a prisoner. The mind is a master of hypnosis. It has hypnotized you into believing you are small, limited, bound by your past, defined by your traumas. But hypnosis is not reality. It is a sleep. And to break the hypnosis, you do not need to fight the hypnotist. You just need to snap your fingers. That snap is sudden. It is a moment of pure seeing. You look at your chains and realize they are made of smoke. You look at your walls and realize they are made of shadows. You look at yourself and realize you are the open sky. This realization is the gateless gate. You pass through it and you laugh. You laugh because you realize you were never on the other side. You were always here. The journey was a circle. You traveled thousands of miles to find the very spot where you were sitting. But the journey was necessary. Without the journey, you would not have recognized the spot. You had to lose yourself to find yourself. You had to fall asleep to enjoy the waking up. So do not regret your past. Do not regret your mistakes. They were the steps that brought you here. Even the stumbling blocks were stepping stones. Even the darkness was a preparation for the light. Now let us talk about the off switch. You know how to turn the mind on. You have been doing it for years. You know how to calculate, how to plan, how to worry, but you do not know how to turn it off. If you have legs, you use them for walking, but when you are sitting, you do not keep moving your legs. If you did, people would think you are mad, but your mind is doing exactly that. It is running a marathon while you are sitting in a chair. It is arguing with enemies who are not there. It is solving problems that do not exist. This is insanity, a subtle, socially accepted insanity, but insanity nonetheless. The master knows where the switch is. The switch is not a physical button, it is an inner gesture. It is a shifting of gears from focus to defocus. When you focus, the mind sharpens. It becomes a laser. This is good for work, for science, for survival. But when you defocus, the mind relaxes. It becomes a floodlight. It illuminates everything without choosing anything. Practice this defocusing. Look at the world with soft eyes. Do not look at things. Look from your center. Let the forms blur a little. Let the boundaries soften. In that softness, the mind loses its sharp edges. It stops dividing. When the division ends, the silence begins. And in this silence, you will meet the most terrifying and beautiful thing of all, emptiness. The mind creates noise to avoid emptiness. It is afraid of the void. It thinks the void is death, but the void is not death. It is the womb of existence. Everything comes from nothing and goes back to nothing. If you can sit in that nothingness without panic, you have conquered the world, because the world is just a way to fill the void. We fill it with money, with relationships, with power, with knowledge. We are stuffing the hole in the soul, but the hole is infinite. You can throw the whole world into it, and it will still be empty. Stop stuffing it, enter it. When you enter the emptiness, you find that it is not empty. It is full of pure potential. It is full of God. It is the soundless sound. If you are brave enough to embrace this emptiness, if you are ready to stop running from yourself, declare your courage by subscribing to this channel. Join the tribe of those who are not afraid of the dark, for they know the dark is the mother of the light. This is the secret of the goose is out. There is an old Zen koan. A master asks a disciple, a goose is put in a glass bottle. The goose grows and grows. Now the goose is too big to come out of the bottle. The neck of the bottle is small. You cannot break the bottle, and you cannot kill the goose. How do you get the goose out? The disciple thinks. He sweats, he struggles, days pass, he cannot solve it. It is logically impossible. Finally, he comes to the master, exhausted, defeated. He says, I cannot do it. The master claps his hands loudly and shouts, Ralph, or whatever the disciple's name is. Startled, the disciple says, Yes, master. The master smiles and says, See, the goose is out. Do you understand? You are the goose. The mind is the bottle. You have been trying to figure out how to get your consciousness out of the mind. You have been struggling, reading books, doing techniques. But the moment the master calls your name, the moment awareness claps its hands, you realize you were never in the bottle. You are the witness of the bottle. You are the witness of the goose. You are already out. You have always been out. The bottle is an illusion. The confinement is a dream. Wake up, the goose is out. Laugh at the bottle. Laughter is the only response to a cosmic joke, and your suffering is a cosmic joke. You are pinching yourself and crying because it hurts. Stop pinching. But the mind is addicted to the pinch. It gives you a sense of identity. I am the one who suffers. I am the victim. I am the survivor. Drop the identity. Who are you without your story? Who are you without your past? You are a mystery, a vast, undefined, unmapped mystery. And mystery is scary to the ego, but it is nectar to the soul. Drink the mystery. Be unpredictable. Be alive. When you are alive in this way, your relationships transform. You no longer use others to fill your void. Two beggars cannot make an emperor. If you are empty and your partner is empty, you will just suck the life out of each other. That is what most marriages are, mutual exploitation. But if you are full of your own silence, full of your own bliss, then you do not need the other. And when you do not need, you can love. Need is a trait, love is an offering. When two emperors meet, when two masters meet, there is a celebration. They are not asking for anything. They are just sharing their overflow. I have too much joy, one says, please take some. And the other says, I also have too much, you take mine. This is the only true relationship. Everything else is a business deal. Become an emperor of your own inner kingdom. Then whomever you meet, you will bring a gift. You will bring the gift of freedom. You will not bind them, and you will not be bound. If you wish to deepen your understanding of this sovereign love, of how to be alone and yet together, I invite you to explore the ebooks linked below. They are guides to the royal path of the soul. And now we must address the ultimate fear of the mind, death. The mind is time, and time ends. Therefore, the mind is terrified of death. It creates theories about the afterlife, about heaven and hell. Just to comfort itself, I will continue, it says, but I tell you, the mind will not continue. The mind is a biological computer. It dies with the brain. Your memories, your skills, your personality, they will dissolve into the earth. But you are not the mind. The witness is not born, and the witness does not die. The sky does not die when the clouds disappear. The space in the pot does not die when the pot breaks. It just becomes one with the outer space. Meditation is a rehearsal for death. In meditation, you voluntarily drop the mind. You voluntarily drop the body identity. You enter the space that death will take you to. If you meditate, death is not a surprise. It is an old friend. You know the territory. You have been there every day. When death comes to a meditator, he welcomes it. He celebrates it. It is the final liberation. The cage is broken and the bird flies back to the source. Do not wait for death to learn this. Learn it now. Die to your ego every moment. Die to your past every moment. Be reborn every breath. This is the meaning of resurrection. It is not an event in history. It is a process in consciousness. And when you live like this, dying and being reborn, continuously fresh, you become a child of the moment. You become playful. Seriousness belongs to the dying. Playfulness belongs to the eternal. Look at the saints in the churches and temples. They look so serious, so heavy. They look constipated with holiness. They have forgotten how to dance. A dancing God is the only God worth worshipping. Shiva is a dancer. Krishna is a flute player. Jesus said, "Consider the lilies of the field." He was a poet. Bring poetry back into your life. Bring dance back into your life. Don't walk, dance, don't talk, sing. When you are playful, the ego cannot exist. The ego is very stiff. It has a rod in its back. It cannot bow. It cannot bend. It cannot dance. Be like a bamboo, hollow inside, flexible outside. When the wind comes, the bamboo bends. It bows to the wind. It enjoys the dance. And when the wind passes, it stands up again, unharmed. The rigid tree fights the wind and breaks. The bamboo yields and survives. Yield to life. Say yes to life. This yes is the master key I spoke of. The mind says no. The mind says no, this is not right. No, I want something else. No, not now. Awareness says yes. Yes to this moment. Yes to this pain. Yes to this joy. Yes to this sunrise. Yes to this death. The total yes is enlightenment. It sounds too simple, I know. The mind wants something complex. It wants a map with 1,000 steps. It wants a ladder to heaven. But there is no ladder. There is nowhere to go. You are already in heaven. You are just having a nightmare that you are in hell. Wake up and say yes. As we close this transmission, I want you to feel the weight of what has been shared. This is not just information. Information fills the head. This is transformation. Transformation changes the heart. Do not just store this video in your watch later list. That is the mind's way of postponing. I will do it later. There is no later. Do it now. Sit for 5 minutes after this video ends. Just 5 minutes. Do nothing. Be nothing. Let the silence of this message settle into your bones. Let it water the seeds of your potential. And if you feel a stirring, if you feel the shell of the seed cracking, do not be afraid. It is painful for the seed to break, but that is how the tree is born. Support this birth. Support this channel. Click the join button to walk this path with us. Send a super thanks if your heart is overflowing. Share this video with someone you love, someone who is ready to hear the whisper of the deep. The world needs more silence. The world needs more conscious people. The world is burning with unconsciousness. Be the rain. You have the capacity, you have the machinery, you have the energy. All that is missing is the decision. Decide, not with your head, but with your guts. From this moment, I will be a witness. From this moment, I will not be a slave to my thoughts. From this moment, I am free. Say it, feel it, live it. The mind is a beautiful servant. Let it serve your love. Let it serve your joy. Let it serve your silence. The ocean is calling you. The river is flowing. The goose is out. Go fly, bee.